It's Cardboard Time, episode number 127, and I'm your host, Arwin Kathke. On today's episode, I have a review of Unmatched Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a review of my New Year's resolutions from last year, and a look forward to this year. Well, if you're listening to this as it drops, I just got back from the Pacific Northwest in OrcaCon, unless my flights got delayed. But this was recorded before I went out that way, since I figured that I'd probably be pretty tired when I got home. I'm looking forward to chatting all about it on the next episode. I've got some games lined up already that I'm very excited for, so we will be chatting on the next episode about that. Today's is a little bit short. I'm a little bit low on time to get things done, considering that I still have to pack, and I leave in 2 days and still get some stuff done around the house. So that's where I'm at, but I have been playing games recently. The shelf of aspiration is down to 127 since the last time that we talked. That's down by 4, so I thought that was pretty impressive. No new games that came into the collection, but I did get 4 played. Those include Kabanga, Tootin' and Hollerin', Unmatched Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which we will talk about today, and Loam. Kabanga, I've really been enjoying quite a bit. I got that on sale, and really liked it. It's a neat little small box game. I think it does a fantastic job at being something that's very accessible. Nice little card game. Definitely adding that to my repertoire. Tootin' and Hollerin' was also a much better game than I expected it to be, even though I had hoped that it was going to be good. It was really fun. It was a really solid time. I enjoyed the pressure luck nature of it, and a lot of jokes were had sitting around and playing that on New Year's Eve with Matt, Lori, Jordan, and Bernie, and my wife. So we had a great time doing that. Loam, I did get to the table solo, and I do want to talk about this one probably in the next episode, I would assume. It's really solid. So I've been playing a lot of really good games lately, and excited to talk about a couple of them, including Unmatched Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2025. Let's get into this one. 1 to 4 players in 20 to 60 minutes, and designed by a ton of people: Noah Cohen, Rob Davio, Jason Hager, Justin D. Jacobson, Jason Klumpenane, as well as Justin, Brian Neff, and Darren Reckner, whose name should sound familiar for listeners to the channel. The art is by Oliver Barrett, Mihalo Dietrumevsky, Kevin Eastman, legendary comic artist, Quanchi Moria, legendary board game artist, Yuta Onoda, Brian Patterson, and Heather Vaughn. And this one was published by Restoration Games. Unmatched Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a cooperative game that is set in the universe of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In the game, players work together to defeat one of the 2 villains, Shredder or Krang. Each villain has a unique battlefield with unique objectives. If the villain completes their objective or defeats the heroes, the players lose. The villains are aided by a number of possible minions and use special action cards and a simple targeting scheme to control their movement and attacks. The set comes with 4 new heroes with all new abilities. For example, Leonardo is able to assist in movement of his teammates and get stronger with his fellow teammates around him. Raphael gets an additional action when he loses combat and gets angry. And then Donatello does machines, getting permanently better after he's used one of his inventions. Keeping to the Unmatched brand, you may use heroes from other Unmatched sets in Unmatched Adventures, and you may use the included heroes and battlefields to play competitive Unmatched. So thank you to Restoration Games very much for the review copy of this. I've wanted to jump into the Unmatched universe for a long time, but I'm not usually much for the kind of heads up 1 versus 1 gaming. And I did note my interest in checking this one out since I loved watching the Turtles when I was a kid. I did have a meeting a while back with Restoration Games. I believe it was maybe at Origins or PAX. And when I heard about this one coming out, it was like I needed this. So I was so glad when I got the notification that this was shipping. I can see why so many people have talked about this system now. So a lot of people talk about this as a competitive system, and really it's very easy to pick up the actions with the card system. Like I said in the intro, the cards basically tell you what to do. It's very straightforward, moving your players around, and if you're playing the cooperative game, moving the enemy players around is super easy. It's really simple to figure out what everybody's going to do. The movement is actually important in this game and doesn't feel like an afterthought to just position yourself. By adding the ability to pick up a card, which if you don't go and pick up cards, you don't inherently draw after your turn. So you have to move around and maybe make some maneuvers before you can go in and make more attacks. And I thought that that was really interesting. It was really satisfying to be able to go and have this kind of back and forth of, do I attack a bunch? Do I kind of peel back a little bit, save my health, get some more cards, and then figure out what I'm going to do? That was really satisfying to kind of make that decision. And all the characters that are included with the game feel very different without having to learn a whole new asymmetric rule set. You have a couple of small rules additions. Like for Donatello, I think that he was the most complex character, but it's not anything that's super crazy where you have like this brand new board that you're trying to learn. It's very simple to get into. It makes intuitive sense, especially from a thematic standpoint, which I'm going to get into. The gameplay is very snappy. It may get bogged down a little bit at a higher player count, so if you're playing with 4, you might get a little bit bogged down with all the actions that are going on. I like 2 to 3 the best. I also thought that this played very well solo, but I would recommend playing two-handed at the very least for a little bit of extra going on the board. And I would probably stay towards that 2 side for my personal preference, just because it was easier to manage, it was snappier, I can get a game in relatively quickly, but still have a very satisfying, complex experience that I'm having to think through and make some good, meaty decisions. This game is really tough. Wins usually happen with a small margin, but you can lose horribly, at least in my experience. It didn't really seem unfair. It just seemed like it was tough. It challenged you to make good plays, really position yourself in strategic ways, and overcome the challenges that were thrown your way. For example, the enemies may move you around and you thought that you were positioned in the right space, and now all of a sudden you're not. So you have to figure out, okay, well, what's my plan B? What am I going to do? Or sometimes you can make that play come together, and it's really satisfying when you do. Leonardo, when you're talking about positioning yourself in strategic ways, there's one card of his that if you get a bunch of allies around you, you get stronger, and you can unleash like a devastating attack if you are able to set up that specific combo. And when you do, it just feels really, really good. So I really like that feeling. Also, the different feel of each of the boards was great. Fighting Shredder was kind of a chase throughout New York City to defeat him, and trying to manage the board state as best as you can by clearing out his foot soldiers as best as you could until they got entrenched into the different areas, because he was stronger the more that he had out on the board. And then Krang was kind of a mix of crawling through the Technodrome, you're avoiding traps, you're avoiding hanging out too long as this kind of invisible wall is encroaching on you that's representing Dimension X from the comics or the TV show or whatever you're familiar with. Krang is going to get stronger and the traps are going to get stronger in Dimension X. So you want to pop in there, try to do a couple of things to weaken Krang so that he doesn't get too crazy powerful, and then get back out and try to keep him in, our dimension. So I really like that, kind of having to manage the board state. That was my favorite part of the game, and my preferred map was playing on there and trying to work around that puzzle. It was really satisfying. Donatello was my favorite character. It really had mechanics that rewarded cycling through your deck and getting those inventions played, which would give you a permanent boost to your future actions. Each of the characters felt interesting and had a distinct flavor, but Donatello I really clicked with trying to get those cycled through your deck. As you move, you get to draw two and keep one. The other one goes on the bottom of your deck, so it's not lost permanently, but you're able to cycle through and get those cards quickly, which I really enjoyed. The artwork took me right back to my childhood. There's clever little references back to the series from a number of different aspects that were really cool in there, and I'll leave those for you to discover. And the component quality is also extremely good. There's an issue with the player dial in the insert from Krang's PvP Unmatched set, which you can get as well. Not necessarily fitting as it should, but everything else works really well. I really like the component quality. The tokens were great. The standees, I love the little detail on the, not the standees, but the actual minis. This might be one that I look to get painted, and I think that they're really cool on their own, but to have those painted or at least washed would be even cooler. From a vision and accessibility standpoint, there is double coding with all the different areas that use color to distinguish between them. So you have these different regions. Your melee characters have to attack within adjacent spaces, but your ranged characters, as long as you're within the certain region of spaces, you're good to attack. So that's really important to see those colors, and with the double coding, that works really well to help distinguish and notice at a moment's glance, what can I do, what can I do. The different sculpts and pictures to differentiate between players' components. There is a little bit of color that's used there, but the sculpts, the pictures that are on the tokens are all really well done. So I had no issues whatsoever with those. So for my final thoughts on this game, so many great moments in this game. I really think that this is one of my favorite co-op experiences as of late. I love the system. One thing that I didn't mention was the turn structure. It's very much like a game like Eon's End, where different players, you have a deck that dictates what happens. And having that variability of who goes when, and then the order that things get executed at the end of the round is so really, it's a brilliant system. I really enjoy it. I like that variability and not knowing exactly what to expect. And I think that works so very, very well in this game. And from a co-op experience standpoint, this works really well. The Unmatched system really feels like what I wanted Funkoverse to be. I would love to be able to bring in other characters. Now that I know that I enjoy the system, I can go out, I can get some different characters, and I can bring them in. I can see what they offer, read the descriptions, and be like, wow, I'd really like to play this character with this other character. I think that they'd coordinate really well, and try to take on this boss with this villain, henchman. And I think that is such a cool experience. And really, again, what I wanted Funkoverse to really be, that mixing and matching and being able to mash these dimensions up together is just really a lot of fun. The cooperative nature of this got me hooked. Again, I'm thinking about picking up an extra couple of sets to check out more of the series, play some of this heads up and competitively. Especially, this does seem to be a very quick game to play on a kind of competitive level. So I wouldn't have those feelings of I played for 60 minutes and I just lost and I feel bad. It's quick, heads up, I'm going to do this. It's really easy to kind of figure out what you're going to do, see what your opponent has going on. I really like that, and I think that I'm going to pick up a couple of those. So again, if you love cooperative games or the Ninja Turtles, you absolutely owe it to yourself to check this one out. If you haven't seen the Unmatched system, I'm very, very impressed. This is an absolute keeper. That is Unmatched Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So let's talk about some resolutions, and we need to review what I said that I thought that I would do last year. It's time to be accountable. So last year I started the year at 127 unplayed games on my shelf of aspiration. I predicted that I was going to be at 100 or less. That did not happen. I ended the year at 129. That was only up by 2, which, considering the state that I was in after PAX Unplugged, I thought that that was doing pretty good, and it was still sub 130. You know, again, not less than 100, but still, again, at the start of December, I was very nervous. So 5 games I talked about that I wanted to be sure that I played. Let's start off with Battlestar Galactica. That happened at OrcaCon last year. I thought that this was a very good game. I don't think that this is something that's going to get out all the time, but I do think they'll stick around in my collection. I think it's a fun game to kind of bring out every once in a while, maybe once every other year. Get a play of it in, get those stories on the table that we'll be talking about for years. That is a very story-heavy game that you can really kind of develop some relationships with people and be like, oh my god, do you remember when this happened? So I enjoyed it for that, but it's not something that I really feel like I need to play all the time or that I'm going to play all the time. I think for that kind of game with a hidden traitor mechanic, The Thing is really a little bit more my speed. I think that's Escape from Outpost 34 or some sort of subtitle like that. I thought that that did a little bit more interesting things to really amp up the tension, and I like that a little bit better. I also got Dead Reckoning out. This had a good amount of fun to it. I like the card crafting in it, but I was actually hoping for a little bit more. I do want to try this out at 3 or 4 to get a little bit more battling going, since that was the most interesting thing that was going on in the game. And it happened very little at 2 players. So I do want to get this out where the board's a little bit more crowded. We have a little bit more interaction and we do battle it out a little bit more. I also played it with Jordan, and both of us are kind of conflict averse players, so it wouldn't feel as bad if there was some more people to kind of spread that out with. Then we have Eclipse, which I didn't get out for the second year in a row that I said that I was going to, and maybe this year is the year. We'll see. I don't know. It just never seems to come to the table. I don't know if it's the player count or what's going on with that, but unfortunately, it has not gotten to the table as of yet. Wasteland Express Delivery Service, I did find this interesting, but it's on the one and done shelf where I'm going to decide what to do with it. It's a good pick up and deliver game, but I don't know if it's really something that I absolutely need to have on my shelves, if it's something that's going to get out on that repeated basis. I think that, again, I've gotten to the point that just having these games around because I thought that they were interesting and I thought that they were good, they're not lasting as long if they're just good games. So this one might be on my sell pile, but I do want to play it one more time before it goes there. And then finally, Weather Machine. This was my Lacerda for the year. I did play this. I thought that it was a good, possibly even a very good game. But I really like games like The Gallerist and Kanban EV from him way more. And I don't think that this would ever be one that would get out to the table over those games. And so therefore I sold it off and I said I would rather somebody else be able to appreciate this that really, really wants to bring this to the table. So I did sell that off. Again, a very good game, but again, not necessarily what I thought of the Gallerist and Kanban EV. I thought that those were much more likely to work their way to my table. So I also wanted to focus more on interviewing creators from marginalized identities with everything that's going on in the world. I think that that's important. I felt very good about what I did with that. I do want to continue with that work in the new year, but maybe not be as strict with it as I was. So definitely something that's still important to me, but maybe open up a little bit more to non-marginalized identity creators. For 2026, let's try for 100 or less again. I put this down. I really do think that I can make a concerted effort to get to 100 or less. I think that I did a very good job considering the amount of games that were coming in, the amount of stuff that came in that I wanted to get multiple plays on. I've been better about getting old favorites to the table and trying to make sure that I reserve time to kind of review why I'm so passionate about the hobby in the first place. So I think with those breaks coming in and kind of getting a renewed sense of why I'm doing what I'm doing, 100 or less should be doable. I had some things happen in my life last year that, last year wasn't the greatest of years, but it was also great from the standpoint that I got married, and things like that do tend to hit my ability to get games to the table, as well as current events going on. You start to get in the sads and don't necessarily want to do anything other than sit on your couch and watch TV. And I need to be a little bit better about being proactive, getting around friends, getting around people who are ultimately going to be engaging in an activity that's going to make me feel better. So let's get to 100 or less this year. This year's the year. It's going to happen. Let's just put it that way. For my 5 games I want to get to the table, I already mentioned Eclipse. Let's see if it happens. I'm not holding my breath, but I'm really going to try this year. I may sell it off if it doesn't happen after this year, because very obviously after 3 years, at some point there's just a lot that's preventing it from hitting the table. Clockwork Wars is another one that I really wanted to get to the table. It's been sitting on my shelf of aspiration for a number of years at this point, and it's actually worth a decent amount of money at this point. I think I got this from Ollie's or something like that really cheap, and then all of a sudden people decided, oh yeah, it's worth money now. But it looks like an interesting game, kind of dudes on a map-ish, which may not be great, but we'll see. Coliseum is a classic game that recently got a re-release. I have the old version of it. I would really enjoy getting that to the table. Cyclades and Kemet are the other two that I have had on my shelf forever. I heard so many people talking about them. You have to play these games. They are so fantastic. They're wonderful. You need to do this. And it's just not happened. And I even have the kit to combine the two of the games and use the monsters from one and the other. And, we'll see how that goes. My love for area control and games like that, I've already played quite a few of those style games that I have my favorites at this point, and it's going to be hard to beat those, but I do want to play these two. I've heard a lot of very good things, so that is my 5 games I really want to focus on getting to the table. Obviously, my other shelf of aspiration games I definitely want to work on as well, so we'll see how the year goes. But what are your resolutions for 2026? Do you want to clear off your shelf of aspiration? Do you want to play more games with friends? Anyways, if you want to know more about Cardboard Time, you can go to the website at cardboardtime.com. The Instagram is at cardboard_time. Blue Sky is at Cardboard Time. The Discord on the Tabletop Express server. You can always email me at cardboardtime@gmail.com for that invite, or go to cardboardtime.com and click on the link to get into that. If you have any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, you can always email cardboardtime@gmail.com and get those answered or make those suggestions. And for the LGBTQ plus community, things are tough right now, but the world is better with you in it. Hang in there. As always, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you around the table in 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time.